Listen. I've been thinking about you, thinking about me. You've been thinking about everything, am I everything that you need? We gon' get it right, something isn't sitting right. I've been with you every night, still you ain't been sleeping right. We've been living in a rush, I've been really into us. Lately you've been in a rush and thinking it's the end of us. It's just the beginning, don't act like we finished. Love can have you spinning, either way we winning, winning. Now your girls is calling, so you getting dressed and made up. Want me vulnerable and worry about you just to make up. You do it. I've been down for so damn long, I got my mind all made up. Want it easy, then you go and make it harder for us. It's real. Yeah. I'm returning your text messages that way. Last year you had to change your heart, but I made you change it up that way. Could've gave you all the cold shoulders, would've had to love yourself that way. But I didn't want you in a fat place, so I came and made it all happen. Said you love me, but you want it now. Had it in you, but it's running out. Had it buried, but it's coming out. That's the reason why you running now. Everything is really funny style, but you said you keeping it 100 now. Didn't want it when we had it all. How you gonna want it when we falling out? Now you playing with consistency, and that's been really playing with me mentally. Said you wanted this forever, girl, and searching for your heart is like a mystery. Why you wasting all your energy with all your girls who never been a friend of me? Won't you focus on the petty shit? Ain't like they ever been with better men than me. Now your girls is calling, so you getting dressed and made up. Want me vulnerable and worry about you just to make up. Yeah. I've been down for so damn long, I got my mind
I'm
on
gonna
made
fucking belly up here running, boy. I'm
easy,
not
then
taking
you
shit
go
in a
and
minute.
make it harder for us.
My wife made homemade like shells and cheese and like spicy tenders and shit. Yeah, I just farted. And yeah, that shit was good, man. That motherfucker batter and shit, man. Shit be on point. I got one of them wines that always be trying to experiment and try something new and shit. That's one of the bonuses, I guess, of having a white wife. Like everything else, it's got its good and its bad. It's good and it's bad. And she don't got no tampons. She said she needs some tampons. She draw a lot of tampons. My daughter needs some tampons. My wife, she needs some tampons. My other kid, tampons. All these fucking tampons. blood.
I'm nothing less than elite. All my fears are released. I'm nothing less than elite. All my fears are released. I'm nothing less than elite. I'm a pop and weave like Greeley. Sipping on nothing but Venus. On the ain't of the realest.
Got the rest of this shit in
I'm a
here.
pop and weave like Greeley. Sipping on nothing but Venus. On the ain't of the
Y'all see, I had to set the other camera up over there. I had to set the other camera. I had to set a backdrop for it. You know, like, yeah, cause I've been doing a couple guest records lately and shit, so I had to, you know, your boy gotta get shit together. I see I gotta fix something still. Whatever the case. Yeah, whatever the case, y'all see. You know, your boy trying to come together with this shit. See me trying to get it together with this shit and shit. So soon when I be doing these little videos like this, man, I'm gonna have a little co-host over there. We gonna talk that shit, man. Smoke a whole lot of weed and shit. And it's gonna be popping. Oops.
You don't wanna glide or slide or waste your time to awaken Tesla. Mention my name one time at the wrong time online, then I might enter. Don't butt me in the flesh if you're just a pretender and not a contender. When I step in the place, back of the rave or on stage, I'm still the center. Just got a brown team with a big back, came down from Leicester.
I'll undress her, I'll get the lecture. With all the pressure.
Gave 3 shots, put her in a cab, then send her back like Nesta. Please don't screw face me, car bro, I don't appreciate that gesture. Some funny man, all of them slender, tender. Please just surrender. All of them fake like wrestler, Alexa, show me one MC better than Tesla.
Sorry, I can't find any MCs better than Tesla.
Stunner boy baby, I'm way too Swayze. Got your gal in the sensor. Girl, don't rip off the phone, it looks nice when it's on and I'm loving the texture. Stunner boy baby, I'm way too Swayze. Got your missing the sensor. Stunner boy. It's BEV or it's nothing, bro. T's a sure thing, man, he gotta blow. What you wanna ride today? Don't you see the lions, man? Tesla, before I was Tesla, I was in Middlesex with a tester. Fling that kitty one extra, then I'm out and a ghost like Spectre. Tesla, before I was Tesla, I was in Middlesex with a tester. Fling that kitty one extra, then I'm out and a ghost.
The champion.
I rep my. Yeah, oof, this shams you could take my sip. Baseline hit some more 8-line this. Buy me a whip, then I take my pick. Then I find me a chick, I can make my itch. Hey, darkness in motion. It's a 16 bar from the dark of the ocean. Flow penetrates egos with the dark of the broken. Meanwhile, in hell smoking, whoa, let me get my roaching. Been promoting the green and the purest herb. MPs get vexed and they slur their words. On daytime telly, but they blur with her. Light work. I rep mine, got a sword for the dagger and the best wine. Young boy and I'm battling the best lines. And you never give a fuck about settlers. Yes, and you best keep walking. Brush me again, won't see much talking. Old lot of violence, swinging corpse and sold in the sirens. Bring 10 Walkmans, been squawking like, boy, don't test me. Now I mean it, boy, don't vex me. Mel Powerhouse had too much pesky. Flex like Messi, then get kicked off your jet ski. Chat about damage, stop. Always wanna chat about damage, shot. You lot are way too average. What to be walking my chat about savage plot. Drop. If you got a team, go get 'em. Don't hesitate, my G, just bell 'em. Constrict away off the rig till you and your ribs get drenched in venom. This shams you can take my sip. Baseline hit some more 8-line this. Buy me a whip, then I take my pick. Then I find me a chick, I can make my itch. Hey, darkness in motion. It's a 16 bar from the dark of the ocean. Flow penetrates egos with the dark of the broken. Meanwhile, in hell smoking, won't let me get my roaching. Been promoting the green and the purest herb. MPs get vexed and they slur their words. On daytime telly, but they blur with her. Light work. I rep mine, got a sword for the dagger and the best wine. Young boy and I'm battling the best lines.
And when you get old, you actually gotta pay mind to little illnesses and viruses and all that shit, you know what I'm saying? A little shit that you thought was for all the little goofies and lames growing up. You know, like allergies and sinuses and shit like that, man. My sinuses be fucking me up. And unfortunately, one of my kids, goddamn it, that shit passed down to her, man. Her sinuses are horrible and shit. She got to get surgery on her ears and shit. My daughter got to get tubes in her ears. She get ear infections all the time and shit. You know, but it's crazy how you can go from as a kid to like being damn near immune to all that shit to when you get older and shit. All that shit come kicking your motherfucking ass and shit. Nigga gotta start doing push-ups, taking
Who am
vitamins
I? I'm
and
the
shit.
greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I? I'm so flagrant. Who am I? I'm the greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I? I'm so flagrant. I'm running the race and I'm faster than them. Yeah, yeah. All of the trash, forget them. I'm running the race and I'm faster than them. Yeah, yeah. All of the trash, forget them. On me, You know I gotta come back. You know I gotta get the racks. You know I gotta get them M's. I'm running the race and I'm faster than them. Yeah, yeah. All of the trash, forget them. I'm running the race and I'm faster than them. Yeah, yeah. All of the trash, forget them. Who am I? I'm the greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I? I'm so flagrant. Who am I? I'm the greatest. Who am I? I'm getting paid. Who am I? I'm so flagrant. Flagrant, 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 flagrant,
Wait for all 4 rounds.
Please don't fuck with me, car GT ain't really down to reason. I could turn this descending season, shooting season, open season. I don't need no reason, I just need something to believe in. Like hearing your body hit the ground might be better than hearing you breathing. Can you hear me speaking? Oh Jesus, I'm a demon. I'm the serpent sneaking, creeping in the garden of Eden. Yeah, I'm far from a preaching deacon. So sit back down, you don't want no beating. If I come back squeezing, have you facing the ceiling, head top leaking. Fill it and rust it, cock it and blast it. Hold your breath as you aim for the target. Fill it and rust it, cock it and blast it. Hold your breath. Please don't fuck with I can't lie, don't wanna ride out all night, but I might if I have to. It's an extinction thing if I catch her, cause I got teeth like raptors. All I see is actors, so here's my audition tape. It's a little late, cause when I do the road, sorry, do the roll, it's more than a little great. Fill it and rust it, cock it and blast it. Hold your breath as you aim for the target. Fill it and rust it, cock it and blast it. Hold your breath. Fill it and rust it, cock it and blast it. Hold your breath as you aim for the target.
protect yourself at all times. Online
Babe, look at the freaking teeth.
I'm like, get the hell out of the water now. I don't
Come on. Oh my. Babe, it's too dangerous. Don't be doing that. Babe, let him. Sorry.
Well, I'm fine.
This is 18-year-old Brooklyn Sims, who was working at a local Home Depot. She had a 2-year-old daughter with this man, 20-year-old Keith Agee. Keith got a phone call from his doctor telling him he had an STD just days after being intimate.
I've never been so mad in my life.
Which made him so mad, he immediately left his job and drove 90 minutes to the Home Depot store where Brooklyn was working. Keith entered the store, confronted her about the STD, and became enraged when she turned her back and began to walk away from him. And that's when he shot her 7 times in aisle 52 of the store. Even more disturbing, his mom also worked at the Home Depot and was Brooklyn's manager, and texted her son that if he didn't kill Brooklyn, he was a bitch. It was later revealed in court that Brooklyn didn't even have an STD. He was charged with premeditated murder and was sentenced to life in prison. Keith's mom was also charged.
Bro.
Yep.
Tell me your name.
Ethan.
Ethan. I'm sending you this video, all right?
Yep.
When you wake up in the morning, you're like, damn, I was shit-faced. This is your car. We're at the Shell gas station. I'm about to park your car right here, bro. Right there. We 3 minutes away from your house.
Next to Sierra V.
Yep. You shit-faced. I don't know what the corner of this is, but Family Dollar and the Shell and the car wash. It's my man's. He said you could park your car here.
Yeah.
I'm sending you this video. Taking you home. You got the key in your pocket, but I'm taking you home.
Yep.
My man. Okay. Bro.
Turning now to some breaking news out of Russia, where the bloodshed from the Ukraine war has now reached the front door of the Kremlin. Take a look at this video, which appears to show the assassination of Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov, the head of Russia's chemical, radiological, and biological weapons unit, happening just miles from the Kremlin. Ukraine's security service claimed responsibility for the killing. The explosive device planted in a scooter next to the entrance of a Moscow apartment building, and the blast killing both Kirillov and his assistant. NBC's Keir Simmons has the details. Keir.
Even the timing is dramatic. Just yesterday, Ukraine charged Lieutenant General Kirillov with war crimes. Today, they say they have killed him in Moscow. Russian media reporting a bomb was taped to the handle of a scooter. This morning in Moscow, a dramatic explosion, killing a key Russian general and his assistant. The blast so powerful, it blew the bricks from the walls. And the remains of a scooter. It was loaded with explosives, Ukraine says. An operation both audacious and precise, the bomb detonating as he moved between a building and a car. And Ukraine's most ambitious assassination, deep inside Russia since the war began. Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov was chief of the Russian Army's Chemical Weapons Division. He was sanctioned by the UK in October for the alleged use of chemical weapons in Ukraine. According to a Ukrainian security source briefed on the matter, Kirillov was an absolutely legitimate target since he gave orders to use prohibited chemical weapons against the Ukrainian military. Such an inglorious end awaits all who kill Ukrainians. The source asking for anonymity because they aren't authorized to discuss it publicly. Russian state television leading with news of the killing, saying the bomb was remotely operated. It comes as the war, started after Russia invaded Ukraine, enters its third year. Both sides still taking massive losses. Already, Russian investigators are calling the bombing an act of terrorism, but they will be under pressure to explain another high-profile assassination in the Russian capital. Kirillov was notorious for pushing disinformation against. The question now is not just what the Kremlin says, but what it does. Russia's most outspoken voices calling for the killing of Western officials.
Keir Simmons, thank you for that reporting. And joining us now is MSNBC military analyst, Lieutenant Colonel, or I should say retired Colonel Jack Jacobs. Thank you so much for joining us, Colonel. Are you surprised Ukraine was able to take out such a high-profile player and so close to the Kremlin?
No, not at all. They've done it before, not this high profile, but they've been working strenuously to eliminate people at the top of the food chain. What's really interesting is when you take a look at that video, you can see General Kirillov and an aide coming out of the building, and then the bomb is detonated. So it was clearly a command detonated bomb, which means not only was the scooter with the probably plastic explosive placed right in front of the building, but it was detonated by somebody who was probably right across the street or nearby. I could see the general coming out of the building and detonated it at will, which tells you a great deal about the infiltration of Moscow, the designation of specific people to assassinate, and so on. It's a campaign that will continue, Anna.
And interesting that Ukraine was so quick to take credit, right? What would you expect from Russia in response?
Well, they're working really hard to identify people in Ukraine to assassinate. They've been less successful than the Ukrainians have been. They're working extremely hard on the battlefield, and the Russians have been making some progress on the battlefield, both with and without the Koreans that whom they've employed. The thing we can expect from Russia certainly is public relations, a great deal of public relations. And we've already heard from them talking about how Western leaders are responsible, suggesting that Western leaders are responsible. But actual actions are going to be difficult to come by. And people in Ukraine, particularly the leadership, are very closely guarded, Anna.
Kirillov was just charged on Monday by Ukraine for using banned chemical weapons during Russia's invasion. We know he was a big player in Russia's propaganda apparatus, constantly spreading lies about Ukraine and America. And he once claimed the U.S., in fact, was planning to use drones designed to spread infected mosquitoes. And as the head of the biological weapons unit, he was accused of using a riot control gas against Ukrainian troops that caused extreme irritation and pain in the eyes and lungs. Just bigger picture here, Colonel, what does his death, the Russian war effort and Kremlin's overall goals, do you think?
Well, I think they're going to focus their attention on the battlefield. They are making progress, like I suggested. By the way, General Kirillov was also accused of using not just riot control agents, CS and CN, but also nitrochloroform, which was used in the First World War and is banned by the Chemical Weapons Treaty, to which Russia is a signatory. No, I think the Russians are going to continue to focus on the battlefield. They have larger numbers. They have of people. They have lots and lots of missiles, rockets and artillery. And it's going to be difficult for the Ukrainians to keep resupplying what they need in order to defend. They've been losing some ground. The Russians understand this and will continue to press on the ground. But the disinformation campaign by the Russians will continue to try to separate Ukraine from its allies. And so far, that may, in fact, be successful. We'll see what comes up in that regard in the coming months, Anna.
Does this put Russia on its heels a little bit? And does Ukraine, by, again, claiming responsibility, is that them trying to send some kind of a powerful message?
Well, that's an interesting suggestion. It certainly makes people at the top of the food chain in Russia extremely wary of where they're going, what they're doing, and so on. It does give the Russians a very big black eye. There's been a series of events that have taken Russia by surprise. A lot of people might suggest that what this does is put Putin in trouble among the people who are at the top of the government in Russia, because it's clear that things are not going well inside the Kremlin. But we have to remember that Putin, all the people very close to him, keeps them extremely rich and therefore keeps himself extremely safe, Anna.
Colonel Jack Jacobs, as always, we appreciate your insight and your expertise. Thank you.
The side-to-side angles, the pressure he's putting up around the middle of this. And when we miss, it's exhausting. Beautiful right hand there by TJ. Right in the pocket. Instead, in front of him, and slipping angles to the side, nice leg kick. TJ is in such great shape.
Oprah Winfrey was paid to endorse Kamala Harris, a report has revealed. The Washington Examiner found the Harris campaign paid $1.5 million to Miss Winfrey's Harpo Productions on October 15. The payment came after the talk show star hosted a town hall for Harris in September. Miss Winfrey also appeared at the final Democrat rally a day before the US election.
Lil Reese gets caught lacking in O'Block.
Don't shoot him in his shit. Bitch ass.
Thank you for coming. You know, I put and I think Raheem Kassam has just put it up. The first statement I think I made from Danbury was about 4 weeks ago, September 26th. I said, is at hand, that you can see the collapse of this kind of phony campaign by Kamala Harris, the politics of joy, right? And she had nothing to back it up whatsoever. And you could see the beginning in the polls start to come our way. I'm very proud that the War Room has had President Trump's back, and it particularly has been the platform for the grassroots movement to have their voice heard. And I said at that time that with the hard work of the Get Out the Vote effort and the election integrity effort, that we were on the cusp of having an incredible victory that could actually be a potential landslide. Now we come to today, and I'm finally out of being a political prisoner by the Merrick Garland, Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi regime. Okay, for standing up for my political beliefs against an illegitimate committee in the House that did not have a ranking member and did not have minority counsel. I went to a federal prison for 4 months. Now, Nancy Pelosi and Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland thought they were going to do two things. Number one, they were going to shut down the War Room and not have that as a voice for the grassroots movement of MAGA in this country. And number two, break. Well, I think you can see today I am far from broken. I've been empowered by my 4 months at Danbury Federal Prison. Why was I empowered? Because I was able to listen, to observe, and to learn from working class minorities, young African American men and Hispanic men, and yes, Puerto Rican men, about what their lives are and what the queen of mass incarcerations, which is what they believe that Kamala Harris is. She refuses and she has refused as border czar to commence any mass deportations of illegal alien or illegal migrant criminals in this country. And today, President Trump with the angel moms actually had to say, we need to set up a form of restitution to reimburse these folks. Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, as the border czar, has refused to do that and continue on the mass incarcerations. Now, President Trump, and quite frankly, with the visionary leadership at the time of Jared Kushner, President Trump came with the most significant reform bill ever created, the First Step Act. And today, 6 years after, and 4 years into the Biden regime, of which Biden in 2020 promised and committed to dramatically decrease the number of incarcerations in federal prisons, and nothing has been done. Nothing has been done. You know, this is criminal negligence by the highest, at the highest levels of BOP, Bureau of Prisons, and the Justice Department. You have particularly minorities, African Americans and Hispanic men and their families being broken, rotting in federal prisons, when the First Step Act is very clear of what's supposed to happen, and all they do is get spun and spun and spun. The system is broken. Bureau of Prisons is broken. This is not about Danbury and not about the individual. I have many good individuals working at Danbury Federal Prison. The system of the BOP, the system of the Justice Department is broken. They have weaponized the Justice Department against a political movement, a conservative grassroots movement that's had President Trump's back, and from the dark days of February, March, and April of 2021 is on the cusp of the biggest political comeback in the history of this nation, led by grassroots people, everyday Americans, including, as we know now from the polling, and the reason I said we're on the cusp of a massive victory, she is failing to connect with minority men, Hispanic and African American men. Now, why is that? They understand what the scam is. They understand that this administration purposely let in millions of illegal alien migrants, illegal aliens, to drive down labor costs. The Federal Reserve said it from the very beginning. We're going to drive down labor inflation by getting more unskilled workers here and putting pressure on the lowest skilled sector we have. And they were successful, and they brag about being successful. The minority community understands that. They understand the scam and the con of what Kamala Harris has done. In addition, she has failed to do, for political reasons, the reason the First Step Act is not implemented among minorities is because Kamala Harris and Merrick Garland and Joe Biden in the White House and Nancy Pelosi understand it to be a massive political win for President Trump. And that's why they're failing to do it. They thought they would shut down the war room and take our power away. The show is bigger and more powerful than it's ever been. And please, it's not a podcast. We take the live streaming television show every day and the radio show, and we turn it into a podcast. So my brothers and sisters at CNN, when you say the podcast number is off slightly, right? It hasn't. We were the largest podcast, but we're streaming. We stream on television, and we play on radio and online. And Nancy Pelosi thought a federal prison was going to break me. Well, it empowered me. It empowered me. I am more empowered today, more today, sharper today, in better shape today than I've ever been in my entire life. So Nancy Pelosi, suck on that. The desperation of Kamala Harris and her campaign is obvious. They went from the politics of joy, and we were the first ones to call it, to darkness and night falls on America, and they pivoted hard. You know why? Her incoherent explanation for what the politics of joy is befuddled everybody. So she had to go back to the same playbook. Trump's a fascist. His followers are not deplorables, they're fascist. That they're a danger to the country. Well, you know who doesn't buy this? Working class people don't buy it. And particularly African American and Hispanic men do not buy it. I had a great opportunity at Danbury, and I want to thank the Education Department of Danbury Correctional Institution for allowing me to teach, yes, civics and government. I had, I think, close to 100 students in 3 different classes. The majority, particularly the later classes, were minority men, African American, Hispanic, lots of Puerto Ricans, lots of Dominican folks in the Dominican Republic. And if you had a chance to read Vanity Fair, the cover story on our populist nationalist beliefs, you can see that it talks about economics. And it talks about the way the system works, the financial system in this country, how it's inextricably linked to the political system. And you can't understand what's going on until you understand how the economy, how the Federal Reserve, how deficits, how they play into the politics of the day. That much that you see on television is just professional wrestling when it comes to politics and is not the thing itself. And I can report to you that these young men, most of whom are nonviolent drug offenders that have, quite frankly, a lot of years in prison. These people came to this with a new awakening, and that is the awakening the American people are going through. The system is not only broken, the system is rigged against the working class of this nation. And I saw at Danbury that we're going to move past the politics of race with an intermediate stop in the politics of gender, which is being forced on everybody right now. We're going to get to what is important, and that's the politics of money. And once we get to the politics of money, there's going to be some fundamental changes in this country. I want to thank you folks for coming. I'm far from broken, and I appreciate you guys attending. And I will tell you, if President Trump's grassroots forces combine as we can combine right now, you're going to see unbelievable numbers next Tuesday. However, the Democrats are not going to give up. They just hired Mark Elias. And you only hire Mark Elias, who I think is the toughest election lawyer in the country. You only hire Mark Elias when you want to go to the mattresses. They understand they can't beat us at the ballot box. We're going to have a reprise of 2020, where they're going to try to do everything humanly possible to nullify Trump's election and delegitimize his second term. And I can tell you right now that the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country that support Donald John Trump are not going to let that happen. I'll take some questions.
Okay, so please get yourself before asking your question.
Hey Steve, good to see you. Tim Miller.
Tim Miller.
From the Bulwark. I was listening to your Not a Podcast this morning.
Do you have the pukas on today, or we have the pearls?
I'm clear. No
pukas and pearls. No pukas and pearls.
No pearls or pukas today. Sorry.
This is Tim Miller, one of my favorite guys from MSNBC in the Bulwark. Used to be the spokesman for the Republic. When I met Tim as a younger man, he was.
All right, so Steve Bannon bantering back and forth with some of the media right there as he is going to be answering some questions. We do have to step away for a 2-minute break here on Live Now from Fox, continuing to follow this live event. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Stephanie Quinue. We're going to head back live to New York City as former Trump staffer Steve Bannon speaking after he was released earlier today from federal prison after serving 4 months for contempt of Congress. So he's answering some questions right now. Let's continue to listen in.
Number one. And number two, we had Bill McGinley and Mike Davis and others on to talk about the election integrity, the efforts that they're making, and quite frankly, places like Pennsylvania, that looks like the election administration is a little bit of a dumpster fire right now.
4 years ago, you urged then-President Trump to declare victory on election night, when you knew all well that there was going to be a decent chance that we would not know the ballots had yet to be counted.
Hang on.
You went out and did exactly that. You urged him to do this.
Hang on for a second. When I said that 4 years ago, it was, why did I say that? Why did I say that? Because a guy named Mark Elias came up with a report that two individuals, Bill McGinley and Raheem Kassam, helped deconstruct in July of 2020, and he walked through how the Democrat Party was going to steal the election with illegitimate mail-in ballots.
He said illegitimate ballots. They were mail ballots that American voters cast.
I totally. By the way, we can argue. We can adjudicate that. Hang on. We can argue that. We can argue that President Trump came up at 2:30 in the morning and talked. He should have done it at 11 o'clock at night in 2020. Okay. I am urging President Trump, if the votes come in like it looks like they're going to come in, he should step up and inform the American citizens of exactly what's going on and not keep people in the dark like was done in 2020. So President Trump should step up and walk people through state by state of where these leads are and how these leads are out. We're not prepared. We're not prepared to have in the dark of night all the problems that happened last time. Okay. The 2020 election was stolen. Okay, I will never back off that.
And we know that you wanted him to stay on as president. We know that you wanted the election.
I didn't want that. What I wanted was I wanted the will of the American people at the ballot box to be effectuated. I want the will of the American people at the ballot box to be effectuated.
Steve,
that's what I wanted.
Steve,
yes,
Robbie Roadsteamer here. I'm wondering when's the next insurrection, and can we storm the Burger King after this? Like, can we do that? I mean, doesn't he look great now? We were in Danbury the first month together. He looks great. You don't remember me? We were lifting weights and stuff in the weight room. When's the next insurrection? How are we going to do this and stuff, man? You know what? If I'm leaving, I'm having a good time. He looks like Yoda with AIDS right now. Robbie Rhodes, Stephen, no political violence, people. This place smells like mothballs.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Harry Lamb, Daily Beast. Mr. Bannon, in 2023, you called Elon Musk a running dog for the greatest enemy in China that America has ever had. You called him a war profiteer, who's sleeping with the enemy, and a globalist who would take a check from Adolf Hitler himself. I wanted to know whether you stand by all of that today.
Elon Musk, as you know, Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was a Democrat. Elon Musk was a very progressive Democrat. They've all become awakened by the MAGA movement. Today, I think he's one of the strongest supporters of the MAGA movement. He's gone through a awakening that I think very few have come. I totally disagree with many of his positions, particularly about the Chinese Communist Party and others. But as an American, he has done, I think, something very smart, and that is put money in back of grassroots organizations and people to do something simple. So and that's to get out the vote here in the 2024 election.
Find someone who would take a check from Adolf Hitler as long as it supports Donald Trump?
No, what I said is he's gone through a great awakening. Right? And I think if you talk to him, he has gone through a great awakening. And I think part of that awakening is understand the power of the MAGA movement and the power of grassroots America. Yes, sir.
Please identify yourself when you ask the question.
Timmy Patrioli with Politico. I'm not sure if you saw, but the mayor got indicted while you were away. And there have been members of his legal team who say that his best bet is for a Trump presidency to succeed and then Trump to pardon the mayor. I'm curious.
So I'll repeat the question so people can hear it. So this is a question about Eric Adams. He thinks about Trump's. I have no earthly idea about Eric. Idea? Well, not about. I see what Eric Adams has been charged with, but I don't think. I think it's. I think it's.
To helping Eric Adams?
I have no earthly idea about that, and all I know is President Trump thinks that New York City, this metropolitan area, is in deep trouble. Right, rising crime. The streets are filthy. I think President Trump has not been a supporter of things dealing with Eric Adams, Mayor Adams' administration. So I don't know. You should ask President Trump that.
Steve, Andrew Rice from New York Magazine. What are you going to do over the next? You've got 6 days. You're out now. You've got 6 days between now and the election, and then maybe some period afterwards in which this will be still at stake. What are you going to be doing during those days besides the war room?
Well, there's a lot of different options. I'm of a strong belief right now. This is New York Magazine asking what myself and War Room's going to do. Obviously, with 7 days or 6 days left, you have to have a conversion of the get out the vote effort. I am not a huge believer in our ability to actually participate in rallies or do rallies, because right now I think President Trump does that great, and he has people along that are going to do rallies in the different states. Our focus is one thing: to make sure that we get as many American citizens either early voting while they can or to the polls next Tuesday. And so our efforts are how to scale that effort like we did today on the show and other efforts behind the scenes. So our thing is to make sure that we're there to scale the vote of get at the vote operations and also on the election integrity. Today we had Bill McGinley, one of the senior lawyers on there, and he's still calling for volunteers. I think there's been 200,000 election integrity volunteers. We need to get people in the counting rooms. We need to get people around the tables to do ballot curing. Okay, so there's still need for that, so we're going to call for that. So our efforts are on the election integrity efforts to where we can be supportive and then get out the vote. Yes, sir.
Peter Harrell on the CBC News. If the election is declared in favor of Vice President Kamala Harris, what exactly do you believe former President Donald Trump should do in the following 2 months? Will you unequivocally condemn political violence?
Wait, hang on. Who believes in political violence? That's a loaded question. Of course people don't believe in political violence. I was just a political prisoner of a regime that put somebody in prison for what has been a civil charge throughout the history of the country. I think, I've been told I'm the only misdemeanor that's ever been at Danbury Prison. I think I'm the only misdemeanor. They told me when I was on trial in federal court in D.C. that I'm the first misdemeanor at a federal level. You know, CNN reported that wrong the other day. I'm not guilty of a felony. That was a misdemeanor. So, listen, we have to go through this election. And whoever wins the election wins the election. Okay? I think we can show we're pretty powerful in opposition. Right? So if whoever wins, wins. But I can tell you right now, it's not Trump that's hiring Mark Elias. It's not Trump going to the mattresses about election integrity right now. It is Kamala Harris's campaign. And why is she doing that? Because the politics of joy was an epic fail. Now, why was it an epic fail? Because she the narrative and actually put together a coherent set of policies that people could understand. And so she's pivoted. She's pivoted worse than Hillary Clinton. She doesn't call people deplorable, she calls them fascist. This rhetoric is dangerous. It's dangerous, and all they're doing is ratcheting it up. And you're going to see the working class people in this country, the middle class people in this country, that are in back of the greatest political comeback in American political history, are going to say, whoever wins this election wins this election. Yes, sir.
My name is Joe the Box. I'm with the America First Warehouse, part of Real America Boys. 1,392 days have been since Ashley Babbitt was shot and murdered at the Capitol. 820 days, Mickey Witkoff, Nicole Reffett sit outside the gulag next to the...
Can we get a question?
The question is this, sir.
Yes,
what
sir.
can we tell them? Because now, 315 in jail, 314 today. What can we tell them to expect?
Here's what I think if you look downrange for a second of President Trump's second term that commences on January 20th. Look at what's going to happen. Number one, the debt ceiling. We hit the debt ceiling almost immediately. Number two, you have the expiration of President Trump's tax cuts. Number three, the government runs out of money December 20th. It looks like it's not going to be an omnibus. President Trump has to deal with a massive fiscal crisis, okay, economic and fiscal crisis. In addition, you need to start to do what Kamala Harris failed to do.
All right, so we are listening to Steve Bannon right there, speaking with reporters after he was released from federal prison after 4 months, for contempt of Congress.
Over and over again. There isn't even statistical variation. 95% confidence level means that 5% of the time you're going to get a crappy poll. We hardly ever see that. It's like they're telling us we're watching a basketball game where every play is a jump ball. Somebody's missing something. What I think they're missing is a massive shift in voter registration underneath all of this.
I want you to meet Jackson Weiss. He's a student at Drexel University from Flourtown, Pennsylvania. Registered Republican, says he's leaning toward voting for you, but has yet to make a final decision. Jackson.
Thank you, Anderson.
Hey, Jackson.
Thank you for taking the time to be here, too, Vice President Harris.
Thank you.
Regarding the rapid increase in the migrant population, how will you ensure that every immigrant is integrated into American society safely? What benefits and subsidies will you provide them with, and how long will these benefits and subsidies last for an individual? Most importantly, will the Americans' taxes pay for these benefits and subsidies? And if so, how much money will be allocated?
That was a great question, but let me also stereotype him really quickly. Listen, man, even though Anderson Cooper said that this guy was a registered Republican, he also said that this guy was.
It's a Hollywood story that at this point is stranger than fiction. Actor Randy Quaid and his wife arrested in Canada. A warrant was issued for them after they missed a court date in California. Now the couple, though, is refusing to come back to the States, saying they are afraid for their lives.
In September 2010, Randy Quaid and his wife Evie were arrested on theft and burglary charges. The couple was allegedly squatting in a home that did not belong to them.
She claims they are the real owners of the house, and the incident is all part of a larger conspiracy.
I genuinely feel like these people are trying to kill us.
And after posting bail, the two fled to Vancouver, British Columbia. After missing their court dates, Randy and Evie Quaid became fugitives from justice.
The couple, whose behavior has become increasingly erratic in the past few years, asked Canadian officials for asylum.
They petitioned Canada for asylum status, claiming their lives were at imminent risk.
For the past 20 years, my wife Evie and I have been the victims of criminal activities perpetrated by a small network of individuals who are out to destroy us personally, professionally, and financially.
At a press conference, the Quaids attempted to express their concerns, but the reporting was overshadowed by two words in particular.
We believe there are to be a malignant tumor of star whackers.
Star whackers.
Star whackers.
Who are the star whackers?
What happened? Paranoid.
That is so sad.
Because I know Randy.
Heath Ledger was murdered.
She is a lunatic.
I think he was drugged. I think he was slipped a Mickey.
Evie, will you shut up for a minute, please? Please.
Well, it seems like they're either crazy or on drugs.
And Robert Blake was set up.
There's a screw loose there, obviously.
Are either of you mentally unstable, schizophrenic, on drugs? Do you think we are?
And do you understand how paranoid and delusional your client sounds?
I'm not going to comment.
When the news came out that Randy Quaid was on the run from the law and carrying on about a shadowy cabal of celebrity assassins coming after him, the whole ordeal became reduced to a punchline. Randy was seen as delusional and probably on something, and so the story fizzled out as he and Evie hid out in Canada. But what about the names Randy was naming? First, there were the 8 targets he alleged were murdered by the Star Whackers, including David Carradine and Heath Ledger. Did he know something we didn't? More to the point, what about the ring of shady lawyers, accountants, and estate planners that allegedly defrauded him systematically over the course of several years? Randy named several of them during the press conference, and 2 months prior, the Quaids filed a pro se lawsuit with the Los Angeles Superior Court, which outlined the matter in further detail. Was this legal filing simply 220 pages of lunatic ravings, or did the Quaids bring receipts? And what about Dennis Quaid?
Been a little tense the last few years.
Randy mentions his sibling.
Unfortunately, my brother Dennis has made matters worse.
But comes short of implicating him in any sort of wrongdoing.
You know, I love my brother very much, and we have
We're worried
some differences, but we are. I'm concerned about him. I recently discovered, to my surprise, that Dennis is also on the deed to my Santa Barbara property. I feel he's being victimized the same way that I've been by the same people.
However, they do name Dennis's then wife as one of the co-defendants in their lawsuit. So was Randy trying to protect his kid brother or throw him under the bus? While Dennis's generic handsomeness and workaday capability on set secured him steady leading man roles in productions of varying quality.
Dennis is now on a treadmill of making movies that are garbage.
Randy had established himself as a versatile performer with a measure of depth before becoming progressively typecast as a comic character actor specializing in supporting roles as the well-meaning eccentric nihilist. Both Randy and Dennis had lengthy and accomplished careers, yet in over 3 decades, the two had only worked together twice. Could jealousy be at play here as well? In this video, we're going to see if we can make sense of all this. We're going to take a look back at how we got here, what exactly was taking place when Randy and Evie Quaid went on the lam, and learned since then. It's a story of secrets, sibling rivalry, schemes and swindles, shifty bookkeeping, and the business side of stardom. with a heaping helping of sex, drugs, and rock and roll thrown in for good measure. This is Randy and the Star Whackers.
When you feel your heart start to explode, you'll be the #1 YouTube download. When you more famous, when you die, they'll have more ways to suck you dry. Put your name and face on all the mags. Lots of pictures on your body bag. When you're gonna get and have no say, they'll sell your vital organs on eBay. I'm talking about whackers. Whackers! Those cheesy Star Whackers. Whackers! Those dirty tongue taggers. Whackers! Those sleazy Star Whackers. Whackers! 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 They're gonna put me in the movies. They're gonna make a big star out of me.
Beneath the bright lights, the red carpets and the velvet ropes, the limousines and the Lambos, beneath the glow of the silver screen, could it be that Hollywood really is controlled by a clandestine network of shadow assassins? To get to the bottom of this, let's start with Jaws 3D. Jaws 3D may well be the perfect metaphor for Hollywood itself in 1983. A bloated, self-indulgent, vacuous, half-assed cash grab that arrogantly insults its audience with over-reliance on gimmicky effects and too coked out of its to recognize how obnoxious it comes across. By the late 60s, old Hollywood was bankrupt financially and creatively. Television continued to eat away at box office revenues, while the decrepit past masters of the golden age of cinema had fallen into a rut of indistinguishable historical epics, musicals, and westerns.
The Bible itself. Their activities as far as narcotics are concerned, marijuana, LSD, these are making no contribution to their own lives, to the lives of the community of San Francisco, nor to society as a whole.
Meanwhile, the baby boom generation were now the highly prized 18 to 25 demographic, and the overarching message of the flower power movement was a deep disdain and distrust for older adults.
You mentioned and admitted on the stand that you'd taken peyote and marijuana today.
Yes.
How does that affect your consciousness?
LSD too.
And LSD all today. How does that affect your consciousness and your ability to cope with questions from the floor?
Well, as you seem to know, I appear like any other human being. You don't notice anything different.
We're not hurting anybody. We're not doing anything wrong.
Out of desperation, the studio head started ceding control of production over to a fresh crop of young directors. The bleakness, violence, black comedy, and pessimism of films like Bonnie and Clyde, Cool Hand Luke, Rosemary's Baby, and Midnight Cowboy struck a chord with disaffected boomers. By 1974, this Renaissance era was in such full swing, Francis Ford Coppola was able to accomplish something no one believed was possible, a sequel that was actually better than the original. This was the Hollywood 20-year-old Randy Quaid came into when he was discovered by New Hollywood director Peter Bogdanovich in 1970. Born and raised in Houston, Texas, Randy took up drama in high school and continued to study the theater arts at University of Houston when one of his teachers encouraged him to try out for a movie that was being shot in town.
I think there is a strong identity being from Texas. I think, aside from the accent, I think there's when you say you're from Texas, people immediately think of you a certain way or tend to regard you in a certain way. And that helped me, I know, getting a part in Last Picture Show, which took place in Texas, and coming out here, and it just gave me an identity that people could immediately grasp, and it get started, certainly.
While some sources claim Randy had appeared uncredited in Bogdanovich's directorial debut Targets, this is not backed up with any substantive corroboration. And though that film is based on Charles Whitman and the 1966 tower shooting at the University of Texas, Targets was filmed in LA, making it even less likely that a 17-year-old lifelong Texan would have wound up on set. Regardless, Randy's scene-stealing moments among heavyweights like Sybil Shepherd and Jeff Bridges in The Last Picture Show made an impression on Bogdanovich, who brought Randy back for his next two films, What's Up, Doc? And Paper Moon.
Any experienced observer of shooting techniques will quickly sense the utterly new and different atmosphere created on the Bogdanovich set. No more the crass showmanship and
Dash of the old Hollywood.
I'm Peter McGuff.
What's the picture you're making?
This little picture we're making today is
What's Up, Doc?
called What's Up, Doc?
For his performance as a court-martialed Navy seaman alongside Jack Nicholson in Hal Ashby's The Last Detail, Randy was nominated for an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, and a BAFTA Award for Best Supporting Actor. Then in 1974, two things came out of Hialeah, Florida that would change everything. Large volume, high quality cocaine, courtesy Colombia's Medellin cartel, and disco. From the very beginning, cocaine has always been Hollywood's drug of choice. After the passing of the 1914 Harrison Narcotics Act made it illegal, the scarcity and high price of coke made it an ideal display of conspicuous consumption, an expensive and therefore glamorous accessory that distinguished the stars from the common folk.
That isn't the way to use that.
While it always had a degree of chic appeal among those who could afford it, cocaine hadn't been widely fashionable in the 20th century.
Maybe, it is sort of the aura more than the drug itself.
But after the Medellin cartel decided to make it the cash crop of the northern Andes, dock powder flooded the streets of cities across the U.S. overnight. First time since criminalization, cocaine was accessible to the masses. And for the boomers who'd long since become burnt out on marijuana and LSD, nose candy was just the ticket. And the rigid four-on-the-floor stomp of disco music offered the perfect soundtrack. With the two intrinsically linked, experts began a push to convince the public the drug was harmless and non-addictive.
Tonight, Steve Young considers the pros and cons of legalizing the drug.
The early fears of it as a hard drug. It's a very powerful and very destructive drug. As it's used in this country, have not turned out so far to be so.
There was a lot of propaganda to the effect that blacks use a lot of it and that it made blacks particularly dangerous, and that there were even some statements that it made blacks invulnerable to bullets.
The scientific evidence which was introduced in the trial does not indicate there'd be any harm if cocaine were decriminalized and if the price was low enough so that anybody who wanted could use it.
Fashion, boredom, lives lived at a swift pace of achieving or coping motivate the use of stimulants like cocaine.
I'd like it to be faster.
Anyone who experienced a cocaine habit can tell you that the trap of it is that it works until it doesn't.
The Godfather Part 2, winner of 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture of the Year.
In the wake of the watershed moment that was The Godfather Part 2, moviegoers were treated to one timeless icon after another. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Dog Day Afternoon, Nashville, Carrie, The Omen, Taxi Driver, to name a few. Meanwhile, the $470 million windfall from Jaws in the summer of 1975 made the blockbuster the new mandate of the film industry. That fall, NBC debuted their sketch comedy show Saturday Night Live.
Well, we've got 8, and we're hoping for 2 to really work. So not all of these people will become stars.
The not ready for primetime players did little to hide their affinity, all but flouting their coke use on live television. When audiences ate up their bug-eyed antics, logic dictated that more was better. And this is the Hollywood Dennis Quaid came into.
When you grow up in your life and you're not prepared for a lot of things that come along with fame. It's like, the way I grew up in like a middle-class suburb, and then you have, all of a sudden, people are pay attention to you. I was a goonball in high school, and people paying attention to you. I could see how somebody get carried away with that.
4 years Randy's junior, Dennis had followed in his brother's footsteps, dropping out of the University of Houston to pursue a career in acting.
An actor you may never have heard of, Dennis Quaid. How did Dennis Quaid, son of an electrical contractor in Houston, Texas, land a job starring in a Hollywood movie?
Where did who brought because real estate and electrician doesn't produce a bunch of creatives. How did that happen?
My dad was a frustrated actor, actually.
Was your father a person who had early fame?
No, he had no fame.
he got his first break with an uncredited cameo in Crazy Mama.
Have you ever been with a liberated college girl, sir? No. I wouldn't push my luck. They are a wild bunch.
And his boyish good looks got him work in coming-of-age vehicles.
These college kids out here, they're never going to get old. They're out of shape because new ones come along every year. They're going to keep calling us cutters.
In 1980, he and Randy appeared together in The Long Riders, a high-concept Western that starred 4 sets of actors that were brothers in real life, playing gangs of brothers.
There were 9 men. They were 4 families of brothers, David, Keith, and Robert Carradine as Cole, Jim, and Bob Younger. James and Stacy Keach as Jesse and Frank James. Christopher and Nicholas Guest as the Ford brothers. Dennis and Randy Quaid as Clell and Ed Miller.
People that have been studied who have developed serious problems by chronic heavy use of cocaine tend to be people who were very well set financially, for whom money was no object.
As Hollywood entered the psychosis phase of long-term cocaine use, commercial spectacle became the order of the day. With the smash success of Star Wars, merchandising tie-ins became a core component of every would-be blockbuster that tried to emulate it, necessitating storylines that shifted the focus away from character development and narrative towards action and accessories.
Star Wars. You and your children loved it. Now your children can relive our great space battles or collect our wonderful Star Wars companions with Kenner's Star Wars action figures. The Star Wars TIE Fighter and X-Wing fighter. The Star Wars Land Speeder. And here's Kenner's Death Star space station. That's the Star Wars electronic laser battle. These and other toys and games in Kenner's Star Wars collection are sold separately.
Production was back in the hands of the suits in the boardrooms, where million-dollar decisions were made between rails. When sequels were no longer enough for them, executives scrambled for the next big thing. The best they could come up with was to revive 3D, a technique that enjoyed some popularity in the 50s, but didn't last due to the labor-intensive and frequently problematic projection equipment required to run it. This time, a hopped-up Hollywood was sure they could make it work if they threw enough at it. When Paramount scored a win with Friday the 13th Part 3, Universal followed their lead for the next installment of the Jaws franchise.
How could there have been only one? The all-new Jaws 2.
Jaws 2 was profitable enough, but producers knew another lazy rewrite of the original might be pushing their luck, so they adopted the toyemic formula of Star Wars this time around.
For the first time, the terror of Jaws will not stop at the edge of the screen.
The lead characters Mike and Sean Brody were kept for canon and largely in name only, and plot is an afterthought that serves to link one over-the-top sequence to the next. In his time working and socializing in the industry, Dennis had already built up a healthy cocaine habit.
I was basically doing cocaine pretty much on a daily basis.
Well, how did it feel the first time you did it? I mean, like, you know.
Real scary. Real scary.
I grew up in the 60s and the 70s, and there was a completely different attitude about it back then. There was a cover story in People magazine about, you know, that it was not addictive and that it was just a fun party
People
drug.
magazine.
He'd been indoctrinated at an early age by the dubiously sourced propaganda of the legalized coke movement and never had occasion to question their misinformation, as he found it passed around on every set, in every agent's office, at every nightclub, and at every house in the hills.
People go into meetings and studios and it'd be on the table.
You're joking.
Yeah.
You're not joking.
I'm serious.
One of his recent movies was a starring role in a film called Caveman with Ringo Starr.
We did the movie in Mexico, in Durango, and we wrote a song called Deranged in Durango that has 45 verses.
But Jaws 3D would take things to another level, thanks in large part to the decision to film at SeaWorld in Orlando.
But even in some movie budgets. It was in movie budgets.
You once said in an interview that cocaine was thinly disguised in the budgets of movies. Which of your movies do you think had the biggest budget in that area?
Probably the Jaws 3D. Probably
Jaws
for
3D.
me personally.
Really?
That
Just
would
a
be
blowout.
Yes.
Yes.
It was
a blowout.
Yes. Had to get that shark some way.
Yes, exactly.
So.
A blizzard.
Yeah.
South Florida was ground zero for cocaine trafficking.
I would say it's $1 billion business. Perhaps more.
And by 1982, competition had splintered off the Colombian gangs.
Dade County police predict even more killings as the warfare continues between the rival drug factions.
And the rampant violence that came out of it was glamorized in the film Scarface and the NBC series Miami Vice. For 5 months, thanks to the ever-present technical issues, Dennis spent day after day of extensive downtime awash in complimentary unlimited cocaine.
Could you tell?
Yeah, every frame.
Really?
Co-star Louis Gossett Jr. later admitted to struggling with addiction during this time as well. Right before filming began, he was arrested in Malibu for possession, along with allegations Gossett was providing cocaine to children, including feeding his 7-year-old son spoonfuls of white powder, according to an affidavit from the arrest warrant. The charges were later dropped for lack of evidence.
It was a setup, and I was exonerated completely. But the truth part was that I did get on drugs. I had plenty of time and no work. And and it happens with a lot of us. I was watching Joan Rivers today, and the kid started at 12.
Jaws 3D earned $88 million that summer. Not quite $470 million like the first film, but better than Jaws 2's $53 million. In the astronaut training drama The Right Stuff that year, Dennis proved himself to be a capable performer that took well to the camera, and he soon established himself as a leading man for the 80s.
You're looking at him. It's well-deserved in a lot of ways.
How good an actor is Dennis? We'll ask the director if we can find him. Which one is he? Well, this is the director, Ron Maxwell.
He's one hell of an actor. He's got a real screen presence. And, you know, there's a lot inside, behind the eyes, in the soul.
1983 was also the year Randy Quaid picked up the role that would go on to overshadow his career. He continued to gain notice in dramatic vehicles like Alan Parker's Midnight Express in 1978. But serious roles had begun to feel stifling to Randy,
How come I'm always the one that has to do these things like change a tire?
especially after the epic fail of 1981's Heart Beeps.
Agreed.
Where he'd played straight man to a robot Andy Kaufman.
Kind of the movie that was dreamed up over the wrong lunch. Yeah. Maybe they ordered the wrong wine or something.
There is no story. You march them out in the woods, you bring them back. It's terrible.
Then he got the chance to work for one of the hottest and most subversive names in comedy at the time. Harvard Lampoon was started up on campus in 1876, and today prides itself on being the world's oldest continually published humor magazine. In 1969, a commercial edition called the National Lampoon was launched. The wry wit and edginess of the content made it popular among boomers who'd begun to outgrow Mad magazine, and they tried their hand at branching out into radio and live reviews.
Well, I'm a congressman from Cleveland. I took kickbacks all the time. Now I'm stuck here in prison farm, doing 99 years. No hours.
Our male listeners today will now be approached by Ellen Matterson, a dynamite chick who comes to the National Lampoon Radio Hour Singles Bar of the Air every week, always hoping to find that perfect mate who will love her, care for her, and help to raise her children. Will that perfect mate be you?
I smoke Virginia Slims, but I never inhale.
A number of the Lampoon staff ended up on Saturday Night Live, and after their first effort at feature films, Animal House became an unexpected hit in 1978 and launched John Belushi's movie career. National Lampoon became the initial connective tissue between SNL and Hollywood. Animal House not only kicked off the slobs versus snobs romps that would become ubiquitous, but it also set the tone for comedy going into the 80s. Juvenile sex humor mixed with crass vulgarity.
Oh, here she comes.
Go up, go up.
Oh, no. Oh!
That nerd saw me naked.
At the busy National Lampoon offices in Washington, D.C., we've been working for years to create our first film since National Lampoon's Animal House.
Though their next two efforts, Class Reunion and Movie Madness, did considerably more poorly.
You'll leave the theater in delight.
National Lampoon's Vacation was a huge commercial success in 1983.
You are a trip.
Well, Eddie's a trip.
He's one of my favorite characters. The basic character of Eddie is based on a boss I had once. I used to work at Baskin Robbins, and this guy owned the store, and I based his character on him.
Randy's standout performance as Ellen Griswold's cousin Eddie Johnson would go on to become his career-defining role.
Yeah, I bet you could use a cool one, huh?
Now you're talking.
He's quite a guy. He's got his own agenda.
Well, I bet you I'm gonna be a big star. I might win an Oscar, you can never tell.
In 1959, the National Broadcasting Company brought together a group of scientists, writers, comedians, and lawyers to create a TV show so daring, so original, that only now, 25 years later, can it be shown to you, the American public.
On January 6, 1984, Lorne Michaels made his return to NBC after leaving Saturday Night Live 4 years earlier. The new show was essentially a pre-taped primetime version of SNL, gathering back together much of the talent from the not ready for primetime era, along with SCTV's Dave Thomas, and featuring several guest performers, along with a musical guest each episode. On February 10th, Catherine O'Hara was featured, along with both Randy and Dennis. The two appeared together in 3 sketches on the episode, 2 of which, Commandos from Hell and Surprise, are not currently available. Their surviving sketch together, Phone Fantasy Club, has the two playing a pair of hicks who go to absurd lengths to obtain a credit card so they can call a 900 number.
You gentlemen want to qualify for a credit card, it's all very cut and dried. You have to have a steady job, you have to open a bank account.
Yeah, we can do that.
And establish a positive credit rating.
Well, how do we do that, establish a positive credit rating?
Well, the easiest way is to buy something on credit. Like, for example, a household appliance, like maybe a washing machine.
Randy appears in the cold open.
Hold it right there, stranger. What do you want?
I'm looking for work, ma'am.
You look like a drifter to me. Just what kind of work would you know how to do?
Well, I can restore 17th century Flemish landscape paintings.
I got a guy who does that.
And Dennis gets his own sketch, Mental Telepathy.
Wow. Mental telepathy.
Why don't you come over here and let me see that book?
Mental telepathy sure is a great way to meet girls.
Hi, my name is Daryl. Here's the book.
Would you mind staring at someone else, please?
The mid-season replacement was rated 99th out of 99 on the Nielsen charts for the entire 1983 to 84 season, and was canceled after 9 episodes. Meanwhile, GE suit Dick Ebersol and, truth be told, Eddie Murphy had saved Saturday Night Live from the scrap heap after the catastrophe of Gene Dumanian's infamous 1980 to 81 season.
Oh man, it's the first time I've ever been shot in my life. I'd like to know who the fuck did it.
I'm going to produce this because I think it's great, no matter what.
But by 1985, it was back on life support, and NBC was desperate enough to bring back Lorne Michaels as showrunner in hopes of reviving the old magic.
It happens when you're working in that kind of pressure and you're desperate.
Live returns to television next month, and the show's producers held a press conference in New York to announce an all-new cast. MTV News was on hand to see who the next John Belushi and Billy Crystal might be.
With the show in danger of cancellation, Lorne Michaels, creator of Saturday Night Live, is returning after a 5-year absence. On Saturday, he presented the new cast.
Al Franken, not a cast member. Randy Quaid, a cast member.
Randy had made enough of an impression on Lorne that he was first to be hired for the new cast overhaul. Season 11's repertory players would be made up of 35-year-old Randy, 5 then unknowns that came up through auditions, and, in a nakedly crass effort to appeal to a younger Gen X audience, from the John Hughes teen comedy stable, Robert Downey Jr., Anthony Michael Hall, and Joan Cusack.
They were all chosen because in some way or another they impressed me as remarkable. And I think that that's the only instinct I can go on. The original cast were all people who impressed me as remarkable, and I was 10 years younger.
In the past, Saturday Night Live cast members have gone on to star in movies, but this year, several cast members were selected who had previous movie experience.
I had hesitations about this show when I was approached about it because I had thought of myself as an actor, and doing sketch comedy was something that I wasn't really familiar with. I mean, I'd seen a lot of it. I've always been a big fan of this show, and I thought it'd be fun to do.
The cast and the writing were, to say the least, uneven.
Oh, okay. All right, better take me to the hospital.
And from what I was able to review, Randy seems mostly underutilized.
Go get him, Tiger.
And his screen time gets diminished by the antics of his co-stars.
You're that guy from the game, Mr. Monopoly. In the flesh.
People will, as they always do, will prefer the old Coke to the new Coke.
But lasting only one season on SNL didn't appear to hold back Randy's career too much. TV movies had been a steady work since he appeared in Guyana Tragedy in 1980. In 1987, his portrayal of Lyndon Johnson in the NBC movie LBJ: The Early Years would go on to win him a Golden Globe for Best Lead Actor.
Well, Johnson had a tremendous drive, tremendous determination, perseverance. He had the energy of about 5 men. I really was quite taken by the way he just pushed himself to the very limits and beyond, and then those around him who worked for him, he pushed them and drove them very hard. He was just a real driven man who had his eye on the very top, and he never looked back. We're going to do the presidential years after this one, if this show goes well, so I'll probably lift the beagle in that production.
Oh, so the presidential years is already in the works, huh?
Well, it's not in the works, but there's been some discussion about doing that.
The same year, while working with Madonna again on Bloodhounds of Broadway, Randy met 26-year-old Evgenia Motolinez, a production assistant who'd been assigned to drive him around. Randy was still married to his first wife of 7 years, Ella Jolly, with whom he had a daughter, Amanda, who was 4 years old at the time of filming. He nevertheless proposed to Evie that night, and on October 5th, 1989, the two got hitched at San Isidro Ranch outside Santa Barbara. And it is here, according to the Quaid's 2010 legal filings, that all the trouble began. On October 20th, the newlyweds purchased a home in Montecito with a down payment of $350,000 and a mortgage through Chase Bank for $1 million. The transaction was to be handled by Randy's business manager, Warren Grant, and his attorney at the time, Lloyd Braun. Now, if the name Lloyd Braun sounds familiar, there's a reason.
When I was searching Lloyd Braun, you were like the hardest thing to find, and all I could find is Serenity Now clips on YouTube, basically.
This guy from my old neighborhood, Lloyd Braun. Listen, you guys haven't seen Lloyd Braun, have you?
Lloyd, yes. Hello.
Lloyd Braun, what do you have to meet him for?
Are you the same person? Is it a different person?
As what?
As Lloyd Braun on
Science. Yes, that is me, but that is not me as an actor. That is the result of a golf bet gone awry with Larry David.
Jerry, I found a way to beat Lloyd Braun.
The reason that you constantly hear George and George's mother and everybody, oh, that Lloyd Braun, we love that Lloyd Braun, that Lloyd Braun, that Lloyd Braun.
Morning, Braun. What is Lloyd Braun doing here?
Georgie, Lloyd Braun is here.
Hey, Lloyd! That's all I ever heard growing up is why can't you be more like Lloyd Braun? You never could compete with Lloyd Braun!
It's always Lloyd Braun. It's never Lloyd. It's because every single time they say Lloyd Braun, it's Larry sticking it to me.
Don't you see? He was doing it to fool Lloyd Braun! You know, he was in a mental institution.
Serenity now, insanity later.
According to Quaid's 2010 legal filings, in the course of settling the purchase of their Montecito home, Lloyd Braun inserted himself and his wife Lauren into their escrow account, creating a pooled loan arrangement without their knowledge. The mortgage on the Quaid's home was somehow paid off within a month of them moving in, though no record exists through City National Bank, who they banked with exclusively at the time. The Brauns attached multiple loans to the escrow account that the Quaids continued to pay off. Randy and Evie would later allege this setup allowed Braun to embezzle upwards of $17 million from the couple.
Well, Lloyd's a very industrious fellow. I'm sure he can accomplish anything he sets his mind to.
Meanwhile, Dennis had begun dating his co-star on the 1987 sci-fi comedy Inner Space, Meg Ryan, and the two would be married in 1990. Behind the picture-perfect Hollywood couple's 10-year marriage, Meg's career ascent was bookended by a trio of era-defining rom-coms: When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, and You've Got Mail.
Back when I was on cocaine.
So fired up season of your life.
Yeah. Great balls of fire.
While Dennis coasted on autopilot, did blow and expressed his disdain for her success by flouting his serial infidelity.
Well, my marriage was I think I have to talk about it in a way that's most respectful to my son. Yeah. It was a very unhealthy marriage.
Anybody got any thoughts?
Jealousy. Oh, beware, my lord, of jealousy. It is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on.
A 2010 Vanity Fair article includes accounts from unnamed sources claiming Evie was nakedly jealous of Meg as well, leading to tension at family gatherings. Evie herself claimed Meg was in fact envious of her and tried to steal her style cues. Meg declined to comment on the matter altogether. Another milestone event for Randy came in 1989 in the form of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. While Christmas Vacation was a box office success upon release, it picked up a strong cult following on home video that has since elevated it beyond the original National Lampoon franchise.
You serious, Clark?
In this one, there are a few more scenes than in the original one, so I really got to know Eddie a little better and was able to expand on the character a lot more.
I don't know about the cat, but I sure am enjoying it.
There's something kind of sweet about him. There's one scene that I thought, you know, you kind of think, oh, hey, here's a guy just trying to get along, you know, poor thing doesn't realize what he does to other people.
Yeah, he means well. And
that sums him up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His iconic moments from the film arguably cemented Cousin Eddie as Randy Quaid's career-defining role, for better or worse.
Shitter was full!
But I was laughing at your expense, so...
Well, good. Then I succeeded.
You did what you were paid to do.
While Randy had carved himself a niche as a strong supporting actor, some say Evie had designs of her husband as a leading man.
What would you think about me taking that job as principal?
In the spring of 1991, Lloyd Braun advised Randy he'd been approached by Marcy Carsey and Tom Werner, the powerhouse producers behind Roseanne and The Cosby Show. They wanted Randy for their latest sitcom in development. To show their eagerness to have Randy on board, Braun told them, the producers were prepared to make a generous upfront offer. And best of all, Braun added, once the show made it to syndication, Randy could expect a $40 million payout. Braun encouraged the Quaids to take advantage of a zero-interest mortgage on a new home in North Beverly Hills and offered to set them up with a buyer for their Montecito house.
Hey, Jerry, you know, Lloyd wants to do you a favor.
Hi, Jonathan and I want to tell you about our new show, Davis Rules.
Yeah, it's about this overweight woman. Huge woman.
No, that's Roseanne. We love you. Dear old Dad.
There's a lot of that in the core.
You never know what'll happen on Davis Rules.
Davis Rules premiered January 27th, 1991 on ABC, following Super Bowl 25. But as Randy's portrayal of the widowed high school principal Dwight Davis veered between character and caricature, the ratings dropped precipitously, and ABC canceled the mid-season replacement after 13 episodes.
Davis Fights.
Hi, we just wanted to ask you to watch our show on Wednesday nights because he's really great in it.
Oh, come on now, you're great.
Oh, no, you are.
She's really
you
good.
Are.
I've never worked with anyone.
He's very good.
You're great.
No, you
Wonderful.
are great. Dad, who's great in the show?
I am. I won the Emmy.
Davis Rules. Previews Monday at 8, 7 Central.
That should have been mine.
CBS tried to overhaul it in 1992 by adding Bonnie Hunt and Giovanni Ribisi to the cast.
Where was I before I was born?
But 16 tepidly received episodes later, Davis Rules was mercifully put to pasture on May 13th, 1992. The following year, Alex Winter cast Randy for his directorial debut, which was initially pitched as Beach Blanket Bingo meets Evil Dead. 20th Century Fox had high hopes for Freaked, with plans to tie in a novelization, graphic novel, toy line to the property. But as Winters and co-writer Tom Stern's evolving vision of the project clashed with studio interference, resulting in Rupert Murdoch handing down draconian budget cuts, following poorly received test screenings and a flop debut, Freaked was burned off with a VHS release on April 20th, 1994.
It's a game to him. He gets to make all the rules.
TV movies continued to keep Randy in steady work up to 1996.
This is perfect!
With back-to-back hit roles in Kingpin and Independence Day, which held the claim of the second highest grossing film of all time, behind Jurassic Park, before James Cameron capsized the box office game the following year with Titanic. Randy returned as Cousin Eddie for a third time in Vegas Vacation, the first in the Vacation franchise not to include National Lampoon in the name due to John Hughes having no involvement.
10 years of tap dancing lessons and this is how you repay me?
Can you believe it? They used to test H-bombs on this beautiful piece of property.
Don't you worry about radiation?
All I know, Clark, is that my teeth have never been white. My garden is spitting out 50-pound tomatoes.
Vegas Vacation turned a profit, but was panned by critics and remains a somewhat divisive entry in the fandom.
I'm starting my vacation!
In March 1998, work began on Evie Quaid's debut as writer, producer, director, The Debtors. The Quaids put $3.5 million of their own money into the film, with an additional $12.9 million coming from Microsoft icon Charles Simonyi. The Debtors initially had Burt Reynolds and Joan Cusack slated for the cast before Michael Caine was brought on to co-star with Randy. In a February 1999 interview for Hello magazine, Caine remarked,
"Because she's nuts, because she wrote it, because she believes in it, and because I'd never worked with a woman director. And it was really smashing. She had lots of women on the set, so testosterone was down to a very low level, which pleased me. It started being macho all the time. As to whether or not it's any good, your guess is as good as mine. Comedy's a bit like parachute jumping. Sometimes nothing happens. There's no such thing as a mediocre comedy. It's either very funny or it sinks like a stone. We'll see."
Aren't you the big cheese? You're in way over your head here, Freddy.
But I can beat these guys. I belong here. Don Big Bucks. Chance wanted me to sit in for him. You're not a fag, are you?
After a private screening of the final cut, his publicist remarked, "Caine has reservations." A test screening was held in Seattle in April 1999. On top of the reportedly vitriolic audience feedback received, Charles Simonyi was disgusted in particular by a cameo appearance by German industrial band Rammstein involving a squirting rubber penis.
And I was really frustrated by this.
Drama. Lucky girl.
The film ended up tied up indefinitely in court battles, though the couple was said to have screened a recut at the Toronto Film Festival on September 13th under the title High Expectations. The Debtors was said to have seen a digital release in 2022, though Rammstein was not made aware of this at the time. On January 6, 2000, Randy and Evie Quaid filed for bankruptcy. In June, Meg Ryan released a statement announcing her separation from Dennis.
I mean, the tabloid aspect of it was really heartbreaking.
Though Meg had begun dating Russell Crowe by this time,
You took a lot of heat for that.
Yeah.
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 she would later state the marriage was well beyond repair before he came into the picture.
And it was pretty much not a happening marriage for a very long time. I probably should have left much earlier.
Evie tried to help Dennis by replacing some of the artwork Meg had taken with her with an Andy Warhol print. And while Evie would later plead ignorance in the matter, her choice of a portrait of American Indian Movement activist Russell Means was enough to cause a huge family blowout. As Randy continued to regain his footing after filing for bankruptcy, the professional embarrassment of appearing in 2002's The Adventures of Pluto Nash was arguably eclipsed the following year, with his fourth and final turn as Eddie Johnson in the least dignified entry in the Vacation franchise, the Hallmark grade made-for-TV Christmas Vacation 2 Cousin Eddie's Island Adventure. A turnaround began to shape up for Randy, with a supporting role in 2005's sleeper hit Brokeback Mountain. Randy would later allege Brokeback was presented to him as a low-budget independent art house production in order to negotiate a fee below his fair market value.
You can't do that.
Why the hell not?
You think the Army's going to give you special allowance just because you're Elvis Presley?
The same year, he won a Saturn Award along with nominations for a Golden Globe and a Primetime Emmy for his performance as Colonel Tom Parker in the NBC miniseries Elvis. The Quaids would later allege no payment was received for his work on Elvis, nor were any expected royalties or residuals coming in from the home video release of Brokeback Mountain. Then Randy scored an opportunity that promised to be a game changer for his career.
The video crew went behind the scenes yet again, this time to get a first look at the upcoming Broadway musical, Lone Star Love. This new comedy boasts an exciting cast, including Robert Cuccioli, Dee Hoty, and Randy Quaid, who is making his anticipated Broadway debut.
He was going to make his Broadway debut, playing one of the most celebrated roles in the history of theater. Sir John Falstaff started out as a recurring character across several Shakespeare plays before taking on a life of his own in the opera.
So many dimensions to Falstaff. You know, Shakespeare wrote him in a couple of the Henry plays, and then Queen Elizabeth, so the story goes, wanted to love the character of Falstaff so much he asked Shakespeare to write a play for him where he falls in love, and that became Merry Wives of Windsor.
When you're playing a character like Falstaff that is so famous and has been played so many times in history, you want to start with those acting chops, and Randy's an amazing actor.
Lone Star Love was a musical adaptation of Shakespeare's The Merry Wives of Windsor, set in Texas.
The main draw for me was the music. I mean, if you're going to take Shakespeare and adapt it to 1865 Texas, I guess this is your play, your show.
Hard times is over, let the big dog run. People, let me show you how the West was won.
It's a real honor, you know, to play a character that is so well known, you know, throughout the history of literature, and then to put him in a setting of Texas, and I'm from Texas, so I felt like, well, if I'm going to do Broadway for the first time and a musical for the first time, Texas would be something I'm familiar with.
He's really just a kind of a larger-than-life force and energy, but he's also incredibly down-to-earth and just like really generous and really giving.
Did you ever see a fat man jump? Did you ever see an elephant fly? What goes down might come up, I'll tell you the reason why. When opportunity knocks and it won't stand still, nobody got in the hen house, you know who will. Make your heart go thumpity, thumpity, thump. Ever see a fat man jump? I mean, did you ever see a fat man jump?
The composer and musical director, Jack Herrick, later told Vanity Fair,
Evie became more and more involved, and as that happened, it became more and more contentious. He ended up in a very strange costume of his and Evie's creation.
Randy had dyed his hair beet red and started wearing a football-sized codpiece, which Evie described.
It was a huge cock. It was fucking great. It looked like gay Vivienne Westwood.
According to an anonymous source, drug use was prevalent during rehearsals in Seattle and at the hotel where they stayed. In an email to another cast member, Evie acknowledged that on one occasion, she and Randy had taken
too much Ambien, resulting in psychotic paranoid reactions. I really wanted to jump out of a window. Randy felt like a serial killer. We got a doctor to give us a sedative and it was over.
The final straw came when, during a performance, Randy slapped one of his co-stars in the head 4 times and improvised remarks about another female co-star's gynecological instruments. Evie defended the behavior as Randy being in character. Randy claimed stage blocking was altered in an effort to kill him, supposedly for insurance money.
Well, I hope you enjoy your preview of Lone Star Love, which will be opening on Broadway on December 3rd at the Belasco Theater.
The production was shut down in Seattle, and Randy was fired from the cast, fined $82,000, and faced expulsion from Actors Equity, the Stage Actors Union. At a January 2008 hearing, Evie tried to film, but was denied. She claimed it was a Nazi plot and ended up assaulting a 76-year-old secretary, kicking them in the shins. In his statement, Randy claimed,
I am guilty of only one thing, giving a performance that elicited a response so deeply felt by the actors and producers with little experience in my creative process that they actually think I'm Falstaff.
It's the hardest thing I've ever done. It's hard work. It's fun.
This is fake. Yeah, I mean, I don't want the paintball crowd after me. I wouldn't do that. But it's it's here. It's warm. So
Nebraskans Andy Stock and Rick Stempson won the 2005 Blue Cat competition with their screenplay Gary the Tennis Coach. Emboldened, the duo signed on with a talent agent, whose clientele also included Sean William Scott. Scott signed on as co-producer and lead for the film, and on January 14th, 2009, Balls Out, Gary the Tennis Coach, was released direct-to-video, marking, to date, Randy Quaid's final performance in a mainstream Hollywood production.
When I read the script, I thought it was the funniest script I ever read.
Like you, bitch! Get up and rip this motherfucker's butt open! Make him lick his own shit off your huge fucking cock!
I've told him 100 times I don't want to see that faggy two-handed forehand shit, Nibby! One hand, goddammit! That boy doesn't have an ounce of self-respect.
We wrote it about 12 times, at least 12 times, probably more like 20.
I worked with Danny Liner on Dude, Where's My Car, which is, I think, classic, and we should have won an Academy Award for that. I'm a little pissed.
Well, Sean, I've been a fan of, since Dude, Where's My Car, and he's very funny. He's very unusual in his attack on comedy. He doesn't hesitate to go to places that a lot of other actors, I think, would be hesitant to tread, but he's got a lot of courage. Can you hold down the fort? I gotta go take a dump. You bet. Roles like this one, like Puddle, you can just have a little more fun with.
Randy keeps throwing his cigarette in the urinal that Gary just cleaned, and it wasn't in the script.
Playing a tennis coach.
And action!
That's something I've always wanted to play, because I always like the look of them with the upturned collar and the floppy hats and the whole tennis thing. Randy, it's good, Mike. Hit me right in the balls next time.
We're good? Great.
Yeah. The movie's gonna make me a big star, 'cause I can play the part so well.
So let's look at the Wonderwall site, if they can go ahead and put it up, and we can keep talking just so people can see it as we kind of get into talking about Wonderwall a little bit. But so part of the goal is you don't want to do the same thing just because it's been done before. And that's obvious here with the Wonderwall site.
It's looking great. Oh, okay.
And I guess this kind of gets into, people will notice in the audience, if you haven't seen the site before, it's actually very horizontal.
On February...
What if I told you that Monique's career was full of critical acclaim and an Oscar win, yet she found herself at odds with the industry for standing up for fair treatment? And that Lawrence Fishburne, despite his legendary performances, saw his career sidelined because he refused to conform to the typical Hollywood mold? Here are the 20 black actors blackballed by Hollywood. Monique's journey in Hollywood took a dramatic turn after she won an Oscar for her performance in Precious. Her portrayal of an abusive mother was widely praised, and many expected her to rise to even greater fame. But things didn't go as smoothly as expected. After her win, Monique decided not to participate in the usual Hollywood media campaign. Studios often expect Oscar winners to promote their films heavily by attending interviews and award events. Monique, however, believed that she had fulfilled her contractual obligations and didn't want to work for free. This decision sparked controversy. Many Hollywood insiders began to label her as difficult because she did not follow the traditional promotional path. People in the industry were used to stars going above and beyond to promote their films, especially when they had Oscar buzz. Monique's refusal was seen as a problem. Soon after, stories about her difficult behavior began to circulate. But Monique didn't stay silent about what was happening. She started talking about the treatment she received, including the pay disparities she noticed. She explained that she was being offered significantly less than other actresses, especially compared to white actresses. She also said that the film industry had been unfair in its expectations. This led to even more tension, especially with influential figures like Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry, both of whom had been involved with Precious. Monique claimed that they did not support her when she raised concerns, and that this made things worse for her career. Still, that's just nothing compared to time when Paul Robeson defied Hollywood and the U.S. government's blacklist. Wesley Snipes was a major name during the 90s. He starred in films like Blade, White Men Can't Jump, and Demolition Man. His action roles, combined with his ability to carry a film, made him a bankable star. But while he was riding high on his success, things began to unravel. Snipes found himself in trouble with the law over tax evasion charges. In 2008, he was sentenced to 3 years in prison for failing to file tax returns. This legal battle wasn't just about the money he owed, but also about how the media portrayed him. The news focused more on his downfall than his contributions to film. But Snipes' career didn't just suffer because of his legal issues. There were reports that he was difficult to work with on the set of Blade Trinity. He reportedly clashed with the film's director, David Goyer. Some crew members claimed that Snipes refused to cooperate and spent most of his time in his trailer. There were also rumors that he would only communicate through notes or intermediaries. These kinds of stories don't help an actor's reputation, especially in an industry that values teamwork. After Blade Trinity, Snipes struggled to find leading roles in major films. The combination of his legal problems and on-set behavior made him a less attractive option for studios. Hollywood is known for moving on quickly. Once someone falls out of favor, it can be hard to bounce back. Snipes' case was no different. While he continued to act in smaller films, the big-budget roles that had once come so easily were no longer being offered to him. His prison sentence further sidelined him. By the time he was released, Hollywood had changed, and the roles that would have been perfect for him were being taken by younger actors. Snipes had to work hard to rebuild his career. He appeared in films like The Expendables, 3, and Coming to America. But the days of headlining blockbuster action movies seemed to be behind him. In interviews, Snipes has maintained that he was unfairly targeted by the government in his tax case, and he believes that his race played a role in how harshly he was treated. Isaiah Washington's career took a sharp turn after his time on Grey's Anatomy. He had a major role on the hit show, playing Dr. Preston Burke, and was considered one of the standout performers. His on-screen chemistry with Sandra Oh's character.
5 words you pronounce wrong 2 years before your brain starts shutting down. Dementia is now known as type 3.
wonder how I do it like that. Two-step, then I bring it right back. They wonder how I do it like that. Two-step, then I bring it right back. They wonder how I do it like that. Two-step, then I bring it right back. They wonder how I do it like that. 7-fit flex on the checks on that.
From sleep, the sun will go about its business. I hope it has some light for me. Oh, please pour out for me. If I don't wake up from sleep, Lord, take me up into heaven where I can abide in peace. But I can't abide in peace. I can't abide in peace. I can't abide in peace. I'm grateful that I saw the dawn even just briefly. I thank God that the earth's still beneath me. I'm praying that my mama never have to grieve me. A lot of figures will give anything to be me and probably walk a mile in my shoes real easy. Whenever my motherland knows war, my mouth goes dry and my gut so sore. I read the news but the Twitter feed shows more. I scream on the pain away behind a closed door. I'm scared that my soul is picking up bad omens. I get exposed to so many last moments. Homies ask how you doing and how you coping. I don't even know, just pop that thing open. Then I just think about how we on stolen land and who got robbed with my golden hand. Who worked to death for my clothing brands and how the can you own up, man? I hear him calling, just pain in the atmosphere. The rain just keeps falling. Where can we go from here? Please pour out for me. If I don't wake up from sleep, the sun will go about its business. I hope it has some light for me. Oh, please pour out for me. If I don't wake up from sleep, Lord, take me up into heaven where I can abide in peace. But I can't abide in peace. I can't abide in peace. I can't abide in peace. Listen, I never really been afraid to get real. Never lays that I wouldn't let peel. Never had to trip about the next deal. Never had to think of how to get still. And still, cause my kids are worried about the next meal. Yo, don't get it twisted. This ain't a flex. It's a nod to my privilege. Staying in check. Some weaponize and muzzle to claim a debt. Some fetishize the struggle and pain and step. But I hear him calling. It's pain in the atmosphere. The rain just keeps falling. Where can we go from here? Please pour out for me. If I don't wake up from sleep, the sun will go about its business. I hope it has some light for me. Oh, please pour out for me. If I don't wake up from sleep, Lord, take me up into heaven where I can abide in peace. Lord, please pour out for me. If I don't wake up from sleep. The sun will go about his business. I hope it has some light for me. Lord, please pour enough for me. If I don't wake up from sleep, Lord, take me up into heaven where I can abide in peace. But I can't abide in peace. I can't abide in peace. Oh, I can't abide in peace.
Shut up, bitch!